Harmonics, what's up? Welcome back to a new tutorial, and today we're going into PDF generation. We had this topic in the past, but I got a lot of comments and questions under the last post, so I wanted to update this post to Ionic 5, and we will also switch over to using Capacitor for our PDF generation. So we will capture images, include those images in the PDF file. We will include local assets, so a local image file, a bunch of generated data. We will create the PDF, download it on the web and on a mobile device. So let's do this. I've done a few steps already, so let's go through them. First of all, I start a blank new Ionic application, of course type Angular and Capacitor enabled. Then I went ahead and installed a few packages. First of all, the most important package is of course the PDFMake package to actually create a PDF file. Then, because we're using Capacitor and I also wanted to capture images on the browser, we're going to install the PWA elements from Ionic, which help to capture images. And then also a little special here, because opening a PDF file isn't actually that easy and won't work out of the box on all platforms. So for our native platforms, we will actually use a Cordova plugin within Capacitor, but that shouldn't be a problem on the web. It will still work in other ways. And for native, we use the Ionic native file opener and the according Cordova plugin. So if you don't know this, if you want to use Cordova plugins with Capacitor, most of them work, and you simply run npm install with them, no Cordova plugin add or anything like this. Once you're done, you can actually run the first build, which is always required to then add the iOS and Android platform. Great. So once we get all of this, we need to do a few more preparation steps. Number one is loading our progressive web app elements within our main TS file, which should be right here in your app folder. So go ahead with these few lines, which help to load the overlay once we capture images. Next step is the app module, not the homepage, in which we need to add these two imports. So we need the HTTP client module if we want to load a local file. I will show you how you can include that local file as a base 64 string with PDFMake. And of course, for the Ionic native plugin, as usual, you put in the import and the file opener goes to the array of providers. So that's it for the general setup. Now we can go into our homepage, and because we will use a reactive form to capture some data, let's quickly add the reactive forms module. Great. With all of that in place, we can finally dive into our homepage. You see HTML is kind of the same like the blank version. For the homepage, I have added a few things, but so far our application is still pretty much blank. I would say we start by creating our form, which, well, let's do this a bit like this so you can see all the imports in a better way. This is just our form to capture some data, not really specific to PDF generation. But the first thing that you will notice is once you will or you want to include a local asset file, you can't just use the path. I think it works in Node.js environments, but not inside your browser. So although my image is right here in the assets folder, so you can go ahead and just put any image in there, we need to load this file now to a base 64 string. Apparently, we can just do this with Angular, which is pretty cool. So I will bring in the code because we got quite a lot of code today, and let's talk about this. So what we do, we use the HTTP to get a local file. You can also do this for JSON files and other files, always using the HTTP client. We will use the path to my file and the response type blob. And once we got that blob, we will also create a new file reader that will read our blob data and finally use the base 64 that we get back from the reader for our logo data. So the logo data will be just stored here. if you have an application in which you just have like the logo of your company, you could also just create a file with a base64 string in it that would help you to get rid of this and just load that file, or just put the string somewhere in a JSON file, anything like this. But you need base64 data. Next step is our functionality to capture pictures. Because we want to include pictures in the PDF, we will have a function take picture, which is using basically the standard capacitor setup. So camera, get photo, quality, allow editing. Important, the result type base64. I think it's also kind of possible with a real file URL, but you would have to make some other conversions then, because PDFMake really wants to have a base64 string. And since we can get this from the camera, why not use it directly? So I will actually assign this value in two different ways. The first way is actually, I'm actually not sure if it's used like this in PDFMake. We will see this. But usually this string doesn't have this part. So we create another string which will be used as a preview inside our HTML, which has to look like this with all the information up front before the actual data. So that's just a quick setup. If you don't know about the imports, let's quickly take a look. We got the HTTP client, I got the form builder for our form. In here we got the plugins, some other TypeScript interfaces that we will use in our application, and then camera and file system will be used later, and the import for our Ionic native plugin as well. Now, we haven't seen anything inside our view, so let's change our home HTML. First of all, we can add our little form, which just uses all the information that we previously set up. So the form control names, show logo, from, to, and text in usage with the input checkbox or the text area. On submit, we want to call the create PDF function that we still need to implement, and everything's connected through the form group my form, which should be right here in our TypeScript file. If you want to trigger the ng submit action of a form, you should set the type of the button that you want to use to submit. If you want to have other buttons in the form, you can actually set this to button, because otherwise they would always trigger the submit. And actually this is kind of not needed anymore. Okay, great. Now we just need that functionality, and I will actually also bring in a few more buttons, because on create PDF, we will just create the PDF object, and then we will have another button to download the PDF. This one's also for our image capturing, which will call our take picture that we implemented before. And once we see an image, it will be displayed in here. Remember, that's why we created this kind of different version after the take picture, because the HTML expects it like this in an image tag. And finally, our download PDF will be disabled until we got a real PDF object in our file. So let's go to the actual hard part of this tutorial, I would say, which is to create a PDF using PDFMake. Is that how I typed it? Just want to make sure, yeah. First of all, we need a few imports, which are actually taken directly somewhere from the PDF documentation. So check it out, pdfmake.github.io/docs. Client side, npm install. And then we can use the second option right here, but this includes some ugly quotes, so I will use my version, but it looks exactly like the one we could get from the PDFMake documentation. We don't need anything else for Angular and Ionic issues. See here, wasn't really super helpful, but well, check it out if you want to. Now, within our create PDF, we have to create a definition like this. So I'm not a PDFMake expert or anything like this, but you can simply check out their playground, play around here, and create the styling that your application needs. You need this little setup You can have columns, you can have additional styling. You see a bunch of things that you could do, tables, lists, margins, images. Everything could be in your PDF file, and we will use a few of them. But first of all, we need to get the form value of our form. So let's call value. And also we want to check if we have a base 64 image. Apparently I just noticed that this is like, I think this is like completely not needed at all. Let's get rid of this. So we can just use this and go like this. It's always good to go through the code once again, so you notice that some parts just don't make any sense. So we don't need this raw data. We can just directly work with this string all the time. If we got a preview of our image, we want to include this somehow in our document, and otherwise we will pass in like an empty object. And if you check out the images, you see that it's always image with height or fit, or in this case, it's also a base 64 string, and that's what we're after as well. So we will simply include image this dot photo preview and a width of, let's say, 300. And now if we have created or captured an image, we will include it, and otherwise we will just leave this empty. Also, in terms of the logo, I will create an empty object and check if our form value, I think it's called show logo, yeah, is set to true. I actually don't know why I made this switch. I just wanted to have a little more if statements and make this a bit more complex. No, just kidding. Want to show you the options of how to dynamically style your PDF. Of course, that's the reason I included this. So this dot logo data, and for the logo, let's use a pretty small width of just 50. So now we got these two conditional values, and we can start with our, can we just use const please? Doc definition, definition like this. Is this a word? Definition? Yeah, I think so. If you check out the documentation, you will find a lot of cool things. For example, one thing I kind of liked was using a little watermark. With just text color, you can have some specific settings. Once again, for everything in detail, please check out the documentation. It is really great. And now, after our watermark comes the actual content. Inside the content, you can now create rows, columns, basically really like everything. So I will bring in one by one the columns that I prepared. First of all, this little column setup, which basically has our logo and a little datetime string aligned to the right. Since we haven't applied any width, this will just use the width available. The logo will be to the top left and this text should be to the right, and they will separate or use the space that they need. So then a little text, and to this one I actually also applied a header that we used in the previous tutorial on this code again. So outside of the content, you can define your own styles if you want to, just like CSS rules basically, but just with a bit different syntax. Again, check out the documentation, and once you define them as styles like header, you can apply them to your elements in the PDF file. Now, after our little header, I will put in a column now with a fixed width of 50% from and to. And remember, these are just the text. Now we're basically in the next row, and in the next row we will use the same space once again. So really take care of all the brackets. It's kind of challenging to set this up. Did I use it like this? Yeah, I used it like this. So now, after we've set from and to as fixed text, we now have the text from our variable in here, once again using the same column setup. Now I will just include image, since this is now either an object or empty object or contains our image, and therefore already has the perfect structure that goes right in here. And finally, let's also format our main text that we've put into the text input right here. Okay, we got the styles. This is just the definition, and now to finish all of this, it's important that you finally call PDFMake.create PDF and pass in the doc definition. So by default, this won't download the file, I think. Yeah, I think though. And only create this PDF object, basically a rendered version. So that means we also need to implement a download functionality. Because right now we could create the PDF, but we can't really. Let's log this out. I have no idea how it looks like. This.pdf object. Perhaps we could see something interesting, but I actually don't think so. So please reload. We see our view. We got the inputs. Create PDF. Document. Well, I don't think that you could draw a PDF based on this, but maybe you could actually if you're kind of nerd. But let's try to download this. So if this .platform from Ionic is Cordova, we're gonna have to handle this in a different way. If we're on the web, we can actually simply call download on this object and it will download the file. It's really that easy, kind of made for the web PDFMake, but again, works on the device as well, yeah, whatever. So save PDF, download PDF is not a function. Yeah, maybe I should call this download PDF instead. We also haven't tried to capture our picture, but let's try the basic version, save PDF, and there we go. We got our little logo image, we got the date timestamp, our header from to, and the test content, and we see also the watermark. Let's also add a picture now using my camera. I hope this works. Yes. Great image. There we go. Now we can see it using image and the base64 data. Create PDF. Let's add some more data because you should see that it's real. And then we got this, a reminder from Simon to Max. We got the text, we got the image, we got the watermark once again. Working quite nice in the browser. However, as I said, we can't use this behavior on a Cordova device, and therefore we're gonna have to apply a little change or a little fix in here. So what we want to do is we want to get the data from the PDF object. You can actually get the buffer data, which we used previously to store like a blob data, or you could also get the base64 string from the PDF object. And once you get this, let's bring this in and just talk about it. Once you get the data, you can use the capacitor file system write file function to write to a path, which you can just create like PDF, my letter, whatever, a random string or whatever you want. You could also leave this out. Because I used a path like this, I also had to include recursive true, so the write file creates all the parent folders. That's really important. Directory, you can, I think you're kind of free, but I would always recommend documents or data. I think I used documents in this example, and that should be fine. The data is actually the data, and if you, once again, a little tip, if you got something like this, you can simply remove it and it will still work. So if the names are the same, you can use it, leave it out, just like with a path variable. So this path async function, of course, takes some time, but with await and wrapping everything inside async, we can use it like this. Writes the file to your local file system on a device. Remember, we're in the Cordova block. And once it is written, we can call the file opener. Now, this is a Cordova plugin to open from the result URI, which returns exactly the path to the file and specifying that this is application PDF. I have left this line in here because I think if you enable this line, it won't work. So it is really important that you leave it out. I read some issues on GitHub that it won't work otherwise, so don't use it, although it's perhaps written in the documentation for write file, just leave it out. Your base64 data will be a PDF, it will work just fine. Now, we could actually try this on a device. Well, let's do this. All right, there we go. Let's also add a picture. Yep, hello. Use for perfect photo, really. From to whatever, let's create the PDF and then let's save it, which will save it to the device file system, and then hopefully also hopefully open it. I think my log is full of the base64 data. I shouldn't have taken a picture like this. Well, here we go. Reminder, the logo is there, the data is there, my image is there, so it works on my iOS device as well. It also works for Android, but actually for Android I encountered a little problem. Since I fixed it, I don't have the problem anymore. That could be like a nice quote, but it looked like this. Inside Android Studio I got package Android support does not exist. Yeah, does not exist. It was an error related to, I think, the Cordova plugin for the file opener. And to fix this, I found a solution in a GitHub issue that was to install Jettifier, which helps to upgrade your Android project to Android X. So install it, run npx jettify and run capacitor sync Android, and then the Android project worked fine as well. So if you encounter any error like this, it might be the fix for your problem. Otherwise, perhaps the Cordova plugin was updated. I'm actually not sure what's wrong. So that's it so far. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on PDFMake in combination with Capacitor. Once again, we've seen that Capacitor lets us do the same things like before Cordova with capturing images, using base64 data, loading local files, which actually works with Angular, and everything else is really dependent on your setup for PDFMake. So go check out their playground on their documentation. Create the PDF file or the structure for the PDF file that you want, and then fill the information within your Ionic application or wherever you want to use it, and hopefully create some epic PDF file. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and stay subscribed so you get notified about all the new tutorials, quick wins, and other app development and web development videos on this channel. If you want to learn more about Ionic with in-depth courses, a community of like-minded developers so you can learn and build your apps faster, you should definitely check out the Ionic Academy, which is my code school to help you with everything Ionic, with a huge library of courses, material, and a supportive Slack channel so we can get your app out. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you inside the next video. Have a great day and happy coding. Simon.